is great leadership nature or nurture? Because I would make the argument that's nurture, right? You're fostering that environment for your team to kind of grow and develop. So I'm Brian Cyphert. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer and Executive Director of IT Services for MSA Safety. We're headquartered right there, across the road. If you look out the window, that's our headquarters. So if there's a prize for the shortest commute, hopefully I won that, because I literally walked. Just to give you a little bit of background, I'm going to jump into my journey here early on. But MSA as a company, you kind of see what we do. We're a global manufacturer in the safety space. So for us, our mission is to really protect and save people's lives. It's that simple. Our fire service business is really strong. If you see the Pittsburgh firefighters, they're wearing all of our gear head to toe, as one example. LA County, we're working on New York next. So big part of our business. But anything safety related from an industrial standpoint and fire services is kind of our bread and butter. We're a global company. We're 5,400 employees, roughly. 52 locations around the world, including China. So when you talk about complexity, challenges, yes. We see all that. So a little bit about my journey. I started, I think for me, when I was really young. I'm one of 7 siblings. I'm the baby boy. I'm the youngest of 4 boys. I think I was heavily influenced by my environment, blue-collar family, working really hard for everything that we earned. Being the youngest of 4 brothers, I think that motivated me just from a competitive spirit, because they were all athletes, and I'm watching, observing them and their behaviors and all the achievements and the accolades, and I'm like, I'm 6, 7 years old. So I'm the guy the kid that's out in the driveway shoveling snow, breaking ice so I can play basketball. Because my goal was one day I wanted to beat them. Because they beat up on me quite often. I think through that competitive spirit brought a lot of hard work. And through high school I was appointed captain of the basketball team, baseball team. That's not to brag, it's just to show that I think my influences really motivated me in many different ways. And watching kind of my brother's successes drove me internally to do that. Now you could say, is that nurture or is that nature? Right? We're going to get into that a little bit more. From a professional career standpoint, I'm electronic engineer by background, 30 years at MSA Safety. My role, when I started the organization, I was an individual contributor. I was a system administrator at our corporate office at the time was in Fox Chapel, the RIDC Industrial Park. And over my career, I would say timing had a lot to do with some of my success. But I think as I think back on my journey, it's just really about embracing the change and seeking the opportunity. But having that mindset and openness to want to do that was certainly a big part of that. So moving from individual contributor to technical lead of our SAP ERP platform, and then growing into senior management roles, director roles. And then 12 years ago, the organization approached me and said, we as a publicly traded company, we need to spend more time on cyber. And I said, okay, I agree, let's do it. So I started the cyber program for the organization 12 years ago. And, fast forward today, we're a team of 10 internally, and then we've got a number of managed service providers that support us in that journey. But that was really taking a piece of paper, imagination, and starting to really put a strategy together and then really implement that on a global level. So that was probably my biggest challenge from a career standpoint, but frankly, as I look back, my most rewarding, quite honestly. It's something I've never done before, but I had tremendous support and funding from the organization to really make that happen. For me, it was never about the money. It was never about the title. I say that now. Early in my career, it was all about that. and full transparency. We talked a little bit about that in your presentation. I think one of the lessons I have learned is early in my career, I go back to my childhood, being a super competitive individual. I always wanted to win. Always. And honestly, that got in my way at times through my career progression, because it was about me. It wasn't about maybe the greater good of the team or the greater good of what the organization was trying to achieve. So I would say that has been my biggest kind of transition as a leader, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. Servant leadership, let's talk about it right now. So that's really shifting your mindset. Instead of the people working to serve the leader, you work to serve them. That's really different, really different. But I really believe in this philosophy now. And if I think about the way we operate today, I would describe my style as servant leadership. It's not about Brian anymore. It's about how do I motivate, how do I encourage, how do I support the team and make sure that they achieve the successes individually that they aspire to, but also that we want to achieve as a team collectively. So nature versus nurture. And I'm not an expert in this, so this is the first time I'm talking about this. But Doug and I were talking, and it's like, this is a really cool topic. And there's a lot of debate around this. So just to break this down a little bit further, and this, I'm setting the context up because we're going to have some discussion about this. Nature is the case for inborn leadership traits. So those that propose that nature argument is that certain individuals are born with traits that predispose them to be effective leaders. So things around extroversion, confidence, emotional intelligence, strategic thinking, problem solving, and then and individual temperament is certainly part of that. And then when we talk about nurture, is more the role in the environment and the experience. So your education, training, your development programs, all of you are sitting here today, right? You could put that in the nurture box. Just life experiences in general. I talked about some of mine early on that I think influenced my side of this. And I'm not going to disclose where I fall on this. We're going to talk about that, and then I'll wrap it up with my thoughts. But organizational culture, I think, also supports this notion of nurture. So, my question to all of you, and I'm going to ask that you kind of get together with people close to you, 2, 3, 4 people. I know everybody likes to do this. But I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone here a little bit to drive a little bit of discussion. Do you believe that great leaders are born or made? So think about that question. Do you believe great leaders are born or made? And then talk, Ed, you and I can talk about it a little bit. But let's take 5, 6, 7 minutes, and let's just turn around, talk to your neighbor, and just discuss this. And then what I'd like to have is a few people just report back. You know, either what's your feeling, what's your thought, or what did you guys collectively maybe agree or decide upon. So I just want to get some feedback on this and get some participation. Are great leaders born or are they made?
Both. And the thought process that around the discussion we have is you have to be born with certain traits, certain attributes, whether it's helping other people, whether it's an independence, whatever it is. You have to have some certain inherent traits in order to accept and excel through the nurturing process and being aware of it. I was saying I've been in this industry from a sales standpoint almost 40 years. The words emotional intelligence would never have even appeared 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So there is a systemic shift, but I think you have to have some baseline traits in order to accept all of that leadership and the molding and things that go along.
Yeah. Thank you for that perspective. Yeah.
I think Dustin pointed out that the key word in that sentence is great. Right? So, we also believe that it's both. You have to be born. He also pointed out, like, if you're born a leader, if the only leadership that you know is authoritarian, then you're going to think that's great.
Yeah.
It's the nurturing, right, and expanding your knowledge of what leadership is. You mentioned servant leadership, right? I think that evolves over time. So it's you have to be informed. You can't be closed-minded. You got to be open, right? And that all comes through traits that you're born with, but also nurturing over time.
Yeah. No, that's great perspective. Thank you. Who else? Yeah.
We concur. I think we also said both. I think probably some emphasis actually towards nurture. A lot leading into the servant leadership point in that, and going actually to what Ed said about reaching out into the organization, understanding what people need, allowing your people to show their greatness themselves, and then also leading a little bit into imposter syndrome can be a bit of a advocate for that as well, because realizing that the people who work for you probably do know things that you don't know can bring a lot to the conversation.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you.
Your list of traits for a nature leader match up pretty well with sociopath.
Okay. Yeah. Nice observation. Anybody else want to comment on? No. Okay. No, I think I hope you guys found that discussion interesting, because as Doug and I were talking about this, and I was thinking about kind of my situation, and I think I gave you some insights in my intro as to where I'm at on this. I think it's both for me. At an early age, I was super competitive. Like, where did that come from? Like, that was nature for me. Like, I think literally I've got that genetic in me, because today I don't want to lose to anybody still. Whether it's fantasy football, playing poker, I don't care. I'm not losing. I'll cheat if I have to. But I think really for me, it's also both. So I appreciate that perspective. There's a lot of good information out there. If you want to read more about this topic, there's a lot of different opinions, a lot of good debates on it. And so it's certainly available for you. I wanted to share this quote. Vince Lombardi, most of you probably know who Vince Lombardi is. Recognized as one of the greatest coaches in the NFL, Green Bay Packers in the 1960s. This was his quote. Leaders aren't born, they're made. And they're made just like anything else through hard work. So Vince might say, this is more nurture than nature, right? But you could probably also make the argument, well, he was a coach, right? And he watches his team, he leads his team, he coaches his team. The harder they work, the more success they have. I'm not saying that's why he came up with this quote, but as a coach and a motivator, you could understand that. So this is my last slide. These are kind of my thoughts. Hopefully you view these as takeaways for you. Print this page out, hang it in your office cube, whatever you want to do with it. But these are things that, as my journey to leadership, that I kind of lean on, fall back to, things that I've learned over my time that I just want to share with all of you. First is, leadership is not a title, it's a mindset. And I think some people get mixed up with that. I think earlier in my career, this was a challenge for me. It's less of a challenge today because of that servant leadership mindset now that I believe I have. Be interesting to see if my team would agree with that or not. But anyway, Leadership's about influence, not authority. You don't need a formal title to inspire and guide others. And I think that's so true. You can be an individual contributor and inspire and lead others. You don't have to have leadership in your title, but leadership is, as a role, I think part of our role is, in duty, frankly, is to influence in many different ways. Initiative matters more than position. This one really resonates with me. Leaders step up, they take responsibility, they solve problems without waiting to be asked. And I think the last part is the most important. Those that are self-driven, self-motivated, they're looking for problems, they're solving the challenge without ever being asked, and they're bringing a solution to the table. So initiative matters more than position. Service-oriented approach. I talked about the servant leadership. I really have bought into this. One thing that I would share is, and this is just real recent for me. So we go through succession planning every year inside the organization. And part of succession planning is identifying your critical positions, but also those that could be potential successors to you in your role or other key leaders in your organization. What I've observed is those leaders that have a servant leadership style to them have a really strong pipeline and talent. And those that don't, their pipeline, next year, blank. 2 years out, blank. 4 years out, oh, we've got 5 names out here. Why do we have 5 names that are 4 years out from being a successful leader until now? I honestly believe, and it's my opinion, is they're in it for themselves and not so focused on the servant leadership style of developing their people and team. Everybody's looking at me like, okay. Mindset drives behavior. True leaders act with integrity, empathy, and vision, regardless of the role. This is just, for me, how you show up. Are you showing up glass half full, glass half empty? What's your body language? I've had a lot of people say to me over the years, like, Brian, you never smile. I'm like, really? Like, you always look mad. I'm like, I'm not mad. So I consciously try to smile a little more. But it's that mindset. It's just everybody's paying attention. And that's another lesson learned. And I may not even have it listed here. But in leadership roles, one thing I didn't recognize early on is everybody's watching you. Everybody's paying attention to how you respond, what you say, when you say something, when you don't say something, how you carry yourself. Like, they're watching you. And I didn't know that until I got some feedback. One, I never smile. Okay, they're watching me. But two, it was just really interesting that they say, it's the higher you get in leadership, it gets really lonely. There's some truth to that, I feel like. But that doesn't mean people aren't watching, observing everything that you do, how you do it, and why you do it. Empowerment over control. Again, I think this ties back to servant leadership. If you ask my team today, I am not a micromanager. I don't think I ever was in my career. I would never encourage that. There are times where you need to be a little more direct with associates, no doubt. I would always support that. But my team would say, Brian gives me a really long leash. Sometimes I hang myself. But I'm okay with that. It's a little cliche. Everybody's heard it, fail fast. But I believe in that. And I believe in giving them long leashes so they can learn, so they can fail, so they can learn. And then it's a continuous process. Continuous improvement mindset, I think, is really key to leadership. Consistency in values and actions. This is a little bit what I said earlier. Everybody's watching. For me, working at MSA Safety for 30 years, this is a little easier because we've got a really strong mission, one passion, one purpose. It's to save people's lives. So it's easier for me to connect to the values just because of what we do day in and day out as a business. But also as a leadership, I think being really consistent in your messaging and how you approach different topics is really important. We had this recent discussion around return to office. I don't know how many are returning to office, but we are. 4 days a week, starting the first of the year. Holy hell, this was a terrible discussion. I think we're getting over it. Shake's on our team. Like, Shake, are we getting past this topic maybe? Okay. But, just talking about return to office, and everybody's got their unique situations, and we empathize with that and understand it. But we wanted to make sure as a leadership team we were super consistent in how we were approaching this. We didn't want to make exceptions for this person and this person based on that. We wanted to be super consistent because I think that drives credibility and it also drives engagement, quite honestly. Not everybody likes it, but I think if you can be super consistent, that's really valuable. Growth-focused mindset. Big believer in this. You're all here. So I would argue that all of you have this right now because you wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in growing and developing yourself. I can tell you that those in the organization that I see that have this mindset, they really excel in their career, quite honestly. Whatever that might be, excelling in a technical role, excelling in a leadership role, having that growth mindset is really important. And my last takeaway for all of you is a little different. So this is more tactical. So learn to delay reaction. Anger and impulse will make you move fast. There's power in pausing, as wisdom lives in the pause. Slow down to speed up. This has served me pretty well. Early on, I was probably the guy that was quick to respond, and it never was effective. I was angry. I ruined a few relationships that I had to rebuild, right? So take the time when you receive that email, that text message, that phone call that just ticks you off. Breathe. I should probably add that, breathe. Take a few days, think about it, respond, because you'll save a lot, and the return will be huge, and you'll spend less time rebuilding relationships, and it'll actually allow you to move faster. So that's it. Any comments, thoughts? Thanks.
So you mentioned about your succession planning. So with the couple leaders that have 4 years out.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the qualities and traits, and it may be the ones that you listed on this on the page, that help you identify a successor or a potential successor?
Yeah, I would go, for me, it's probably two things. It's growth mindset. Do they want to continue to learn, invest, and grow and develop themselves? And then it's also a lot about soft skills. It's not about technical skills in a lot of cases. I often talk to the team about there's things that we do. I call that the what. But the other part of that is how. How do we do this? And I found that those that are really effective at the how have a really good opportunity to kind of grow and develop in their future because they have emotional intelligence, they're self-reflective, they probably have a personality that's attractive, right? Someone you want to work with. I would say those are probably the big ones for me that stand out.
I think even if your company doesn't do succession planning, that may be a great thing for you to think about and to be active on, apart from your company policy, just to evaluate
Yeah.
what it might look like if
Yeah.
you get hit by a beer truck or
Yeah.
decide to retire.
You know, and I think, again, just Brian's opinion, but I think sometimes as leaders, there's a level of uncomfortness that comes with succession planning. Like if I'm grooming people to be me, wow, that makes me uncomfortable because why wouldn't they just get rid of me? Like, so you've got to get comfortable with that. But honestly, I can't speak for your organizations, but there's an expectation, MSA, that we all have succession plans and we've already got the next leaders identified. Whether they become the leader of my role or future leaders, it doesn't matter. It's just that we're building that leadership pipeline and there's an expectation for that. So being uncomfortable with that is, I think, something that a lot of us as leaders probably are going through or have gone through. But it's really important. And maybe because I'm a bit longer in my career, I've become very comfortable with it. I don't feel it as threatening anymore. And in fact, it's threatening if I don't do it, quite honestly. Yeah.
You know, when I work with leaders, that's one of the first questions I ask them, like, hey, who's your successor? Right? Because
Yeah.
one, it gets them thinking about it. It probably gets them uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? It kind of sets the tone for you know, how I want to build a relationship with them, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be challenging, and it's going to be thinking about what's the long run,
Yeah.
not the short term.
Yeah.
How do you deal with retention as you're succession planning? How do you deal with retention as you're developing leaders to fill spaces that might not exist for a while and they reach that point? Do you count that as networking?
Yeah, that's challenging.
I would like to know the answer if there is one.
You know, I have found that one, you need to know what motivates the individual. Like what gets them excited? What gets them out of bed in the morning? Why do they come to work? What is it they're looking for to get out of their role? Once you understand that, then I think you can tailor it a bit to what motivates them. I've often found that if you can identify like strategic projects that are stretch goals for them, give them that opportunity because they're looking to do something new. Most likely they want to learn something different. Maybe not everyone, but those that I find that really want to be my successor, they're looking for those challenges. It's like, what's interesting for me? I don't want to keep doing what I'm doing. If you can't promote me today or next week or next year, can I do something that's new? Maybe the next acquisition, they're my lead on that acquisition, right? Something they've never done before. It's like, holy shit, I'm scared of this. I'm like, it's okay. We'll work through it together. We'll get you there. But it's so new, it's different, it's exciting. It takes them out of the day-to-day role. I would say that's the thing that I probably try to do the most.
Brian, thank you.
Quick question. Giving any advice for individual contributors that are leaders and don't know it yet? Meaning, I've worked with a handful of people that they just get it, right? If they have it, they get it.
Yeah.
But they're so new into their career or so busy on this project or whatever that leadership might not necessarily even be on their mind yet, or maybe it never will be.
Yeah.
Any thoughts around that situation?
Yeah, I mean, we have one-on-one discussions every month with all of our direct reports. If I identify someone like that, I just start to have those conversations. Like, hey, I've noticed this. Like, you're really good at this. You don't even know you're good at it probably. And you may not aspire, or maybe you do aspire. But for me, it just comes through conversation with them and to understand what are their interests. And I always hate to say, where do you want to be in 5 years? Like, but let's talk about next 6 months, next 12 months. And I would say that's how I handle it. and we'll see where it takes us. But if I know early on their aspirations are leadership and they're already exhibiting those traits, well, then how do I foster that to make sure that that individual can achieve their goals?
I think maybe also facilitating some mentorship as well. You know, even cross-functional mentorship.
It's a great idea.
And you know, Tony and I work together. You know, if you realize that they have similar traits, you know, like maybe helping them in their professional development, I mean, guiding them through a book that you've enjoyed, right?
Yeah.
You know, and talking to them about, like, hey, what did you think about that chapter? What did
Yeah.
you think about this scenario?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you really gauge, are they engaged in this situation or not? So.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think you already touched upon this. We also face similar situations. Having a stretch assignment for those contributors will help them understand they can actually be a good leader, weak individual.
Yeah.
That stretch assignments will actually help them to figure them out.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
right.
If you give them a stretch assignment, make sure they know what success looks like.
That's right. That's right.
Because success may not be like the entire success of the project.
Yep.
Right? So.
Yeah, great point. Thank you.
Brian, thank you.
Okay.